So I give you Dr. Kazzaz.
I want to give you certain information that is not available to other people. Part of my research and part of my bringing up in Iraq. One important part of the history, my history, as you heard that I was born in Baghdad and I trace my route to the destruction of the first temple. And 500 years before that exile into Iraq, the upper kingdom of Israel was also occupied, and they took about nine tribes, they took them into northern Iraq, into Assyria. They really didn't disappear. They called the lost tribes. They didn't disappear. All what happened is that they disconnected from their roots and their religion. So 9 tribes disappeared in that way. When my people came, they came with the prophet Ezekiel. And the prophet Ezekiel was also a chief priest, Kohen Gadol. So he had a great deal of influence. He just woke up and he said, I don't have a temple. So what are we going to do? Are we going to die? So he invented the idea of prayers and made the statement, with our lips, this is the sacrifices that we give in the temple. The second thing he did, until that time, the Torah was transmitted by mouth. It's going to be lost. So he commissioned Ezra, the scribe, and said, Ezra is only a scribe, he could write. Not everybody could. So he went and collected all the information and put the Torah together. So we have now then, the Jews of Babylonia, they have a prophet and they have a way of connecting with their God without the temple, and they have a Torah in their hand. As it happened, 40 years later, the king of Persia, Cyrus, came in and defeated Nebuchadnezzar, who exiled the Jews. To stick it into the eye of Nebuchadnezzar, he allowed the Jews to go back and build the second temple. So you see the kind of connection. So without our people, there would not have been a Torah, there wouldn't have been a second temple, there wouldn't have been Christianity, and not even Islam, the other religion that worship the same God. That part of that history. Another part of the history of the Babylonian Jew, when the Muslims came from Arabia, Saudi Arabia today, and occupied the Middle East, they really didn't have the Quran. They didn't have the Quran. And they was just occupying country, and all what require of the people to make a statement that there is no God but Allah, which means Elohim in Hebrew, and then Muhammad is his emissary, not even his prophet. You're a Muslim, that's it. They had no book, no information, but they had a kingdom. So that when they came to Iraq, Iraq had the established community, that community that has already written the Talmud, they have the Mishnah, they have all kind of organization. So they turned to the Jews. Now we talked here about the Dhimmi, but the most important part of that connection, that my people, the Babylonian Jews, help in writing the Quran. And this is a tremendous part of the history that's kind of forgotten. Then there were a long history after that, ups and downs, and to the Babylonian Jews. I won't go through that. I want to take you then to the time of my own life. I was there when the Farhud, the pogrom that you heard about a lot in this movie, I was there in Baghdad. It was in Shavuot holiday, and it was kind of warm weather, and we could we sleep on the roof of the house at that time. So I was standing in the roof with my father, and I could hear the yelling of the people who are being persecuted and killed down. And I heard the voice coming closer and closer to us. Our neighborhood was saved. We later on found out why our neighborhood was saved. This event of attacking the Jews, the pogrom, lasted 2 days. Then some loyal government forces came in and then stopped the killing. But our neighborhood in these 2 days was not attacked. Well, it turned out we find afterward that we had a mini Easter in our neighborhood. The girlfriend of the chief of police lived in our neighborhood. So the chief of police, instead of helping the police in other part was helping the rioters killing Jews, in our area, he didn't allow the mob to come, and that's how how we were saved. Then, fast forward, this was in 41. In 48, I was in Beirut. Actually, I graduated in 48 from medical school, but I was stuck in Beirut. And they, in Iraq, as you have heard, they started persecuting the Jews. They made Zionism as a crime. So they come and search your house. If they find the Star of David on the tallit, you're a Zionist. So they put you in jail. I didn't bring with me my tallit from Baghdad, that my mother took the stitches of the Star of David so that we don't go to jail if they examine our house. And they and that continued, and the people were suffering. In 1950, in Baghdad, they declared, it's a long story how come they did that. They said any Jew who wants to leave may leave the country, provided he gives up his or her citizenship and everything he knows. My God, we were there before those people came to the country, so we'll have no country in order to leave. But then we knew, you heard from the story here, the persecution and the development, the anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish activity. It wasn't safe anymore. So, but when they passed that law, naturally the people thought it was a trick. If you go and register for this, then you're a Zionist, they will put you in jail. So the people were afraid to go and register. Then one lady, she was barely 21, took courage. She was engaged, and in the engagement, she was, in our system, we have legal engagement that you cannot break it. It's through the rabbinical court. And she was given part of the system, a gold pound, a silver, and copper. Out of the gold pound, she made a pin, and she carried that on her lapel. She was engaged. And she went through the crowd that was standing out in the courtyard outside before the registration place. And some people knew her name. Most of the others don't. Who is she? Who is she? They knew what she was going to do. She was going to register for this tasqid, they call it, giving up your citizenship. And so the other gave her the nickname in Arabic, al-Pawan, mother of the pound, the English pound. She went in and registered and came out, and when the people saw that nothing happened to her, floodgate opened. This was early in the afternoon. Then they start rushing to register. I have record of the time that this lady went to register, and also this man with the black shirt was talking, Ben Porat. He was coordinating the situation. He wrote in his book, he didn't know about the role of this lady, but he said that day, all the crowd got restless, so they went. And the next day, in his book, and they have the date, they opened 5 centers. And the 92% of people who have been there for more than 2,000 years left everything behind, and they went. They didn't go to the land of milk and honey, as it is in the Bible. You have seen here about living in tents and things like that. But the important thing for all of us to recognize is that by that movement, which was stirred by this young lady, has saved all of that community that you heard here right now, that about 17%, she said, about the population of Israel. They are really on the high level of things. They're producing all kinds. There are more professors from Iraqi Jews in Israel than any other community. I mean, these very active people were saved by that movement. And I wrote my book to tell that story, that we, the Jews, get all kind of persecution. Even today, we are hearing about Nazism, anti-Semitism in Europe and even in this country. So I thought it's important that everybody knows that's important how you save yourself to perpetuate our life and our existence. Yeah. So I want to conclude with the lesson of that story. There were the following qualities that allowed the Jews to live. I call it Ifruf. I is identity. We had a very solid identity. We knew who we are, just like I'm talking to you, that we are descendant of the exile. We all felt that way. We had no division. The thing is faith. F is family, extended families so close. I mean, I knew all of my family. And then responsibility, and we didn't depend on anybody. The Iraqi government never gave us anything. We had our own school, our own hospital, things like that. And then U is unity. We didn't have Reform, Orthodox. We're all the same. And we were united, and it was very easy to do. And the last F is faith. And every Jewish home was a kosher home. And every other way, we don't use the name of God in vain. So what we do in our language, we have a Judeo-Arabic. We use the Arabic word, Allah. So that's okay. And they say, Allah be with you, Allah. In Arabic, in our own, my mother will say, Allah will save you, go with Allah's help. So we have connection with our God, connection with our people, and that's what made the Jews take that decision and leave. And thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Want to mention who the mother of the pound was engaged to?
Yeah. The mother of the pound.
The question is, who is the mother of the pound engaged to?
Yeah. The mother of the pound was engaged to your servant. I was in Beirut studying medicine, and we were engaged legally. And I said, you can't break that engagement. It was more difficult to break an engagement than today to have a divorce. It's that kind of thing. So if any of us, and I was separated because I was studying and she was in Baghdad, if any of us would have married, the second marriage would be null and void. So she was there. I wouldn't go to Iraq, of course, with all the trouble, and she couldn't get out. And then as I said, I graduated in 48. Then I was stuck in Beirut. It's a long story. They took my passport. So anyway, we were separated, and she couldn't get to me. I couldn't get to her, and that's why she took that step. And then you know the rest of the story.
Any other questions? I saw a hand over here.
Yes.
Yes?
In your book, you talked about how you were wanting to study in a particular city, but you were denied the opportunity. Can you just tell a little bit about that?
Okay, so the question is, you said in your book you were denied the opportunity to study in a certain city. Could you talk about it?
No, actually, what I was denied to, we had our own schools. At elementary school, I went to the Jewish school. For the intermediate, I went to the government school. And of course, there were Arabs and Jews in it. By the time I graduated from intermediate school to go to high school, they passed a law. They didn't allow the Jews to go into the public school anymore, and we were stuck. And there were 100 students like that, and as usual, you know, the Jewish community has to take care of us, and then they're creative, and what they found out, there is a Jewish high school, but it was full already, and there's no place. So they found out, well, the students finish at 5 o'clock, so they put a class for us from 5:30 to 7:30 to 8:30 every day, and they get the best teachers for us for high school, and we did that. But I won't tell a story about related to that. It just happened in my life. The principal of that middle school was a really pious Arab Muslim. And he was the cousin of a sheikh that was a friend with my father and had some business associated with him. I happened to be in the office of my father where the principal and the sheikh were sitting there, and I was, a student sitting in the corner. I was hearing, and this fellow said something unbelievable. He knew what's happening, and he was unhappy about it. And he knew that the persecution of the Jews was for political thing, to scapegoat the Jews and something. He said, listen to this. He said, first comes Saturday, then there will come Sunday, and it won't take long that Friday will come along. What he meant, they will go after the Jews for political reason first, and then after the Christians, but it wouldn't take long, they turn on themselves. Now Friday is here.
That's right.
Friday, now the killing, the most of the killing is among themselves.
Very good.
Any other questions?
When the state of Israel was founded, Hajj al-Amin, the Husseini, the leader, the Mufti of Jerusalem, the biggest leader of the Arab world at that time, urged the Arabs living in what was then Palestine to leave to let the 7 Arab armies come in and wipe out the Jews. And he promised them that when they would soon return, they could take everything that belonged to the Jews. That was the beginning of that refugee problem. This movie tells the beginning of the refugee problem from our side, which is almost universally not known. It's not known because no organization other than AAT, Americans Against Terrorism, and B'nai B'rith are bringing it to the public's attention. We want to take this movie to campuses and other places and say, look, here's the history. Here's what happened. Now, can you tell me that you will champion the Arab refugee problem and ignore the Jewish problem? And if you do, can you still say that you're not anti-Semitic? So we ask you, help us in that effort. Please be as generous as you can with donations. Sign up on the list. Bring friends to our next show. David will stay around, I'm sure, to talk to people in small groups. Thank you, everyone.
Born and raised in Baghdad, Dr. Kazzaz traces his roots in that area to the Jewish exile to Babylonia following the destruction of the temple over 2,000 years ago. Dr. Kazzaz attended the American University of Beirut, the Hadassah University Hospital in Jerusalem, and University of Colorado in Denver. After this, he returned to Israel to develop a model community mental health center for the Department of Mental Health in Israel. After practicing psychiatry in Denver for almost 30 years, Dr. Kazzaz developed Project Pride, sponsored by the ADL, intended to enhance the knowledge and strong identity among the American Jews as an affirmative way to fight anti-Semitism, and also the Hispano Crypto Jewish Resource Center at DU to aid Hispanics who think they have Jewish roots to research their roots and claim their hidden identity. After the 9/11 attacks, Dr. Kazzaz offered advisory help to leaders in Iraq, Israel, and the United States Defense Department. Dr. Kazzaz has published his book, Mother of the Pound, on the culture and history of the Iraqi Jews, including the saga of the mass exodus from Iraq in 1950 and the heroic role of his wife in it.